Hello guys, welcome to today's DNA. Today is 22nd of January and we'll start with today's DNA. These are the topics that we will cover for today's DNA. The very few topics related to prelims. So let's get on to the topics. Okay, so this is the first news. After missing multiple deadlines, Gaganyaan mission finally, the uncrewed mission will likely take off by March. Now, coming to the basics about it, okay, what is Gaganyaan? Gaganyaan project is a human spaceflight capability launching a three member into the low Earth orbit for a 3 days mission. This is an indigenous mission of ISRO by ISRO, okay, in with the help of other major space agencies. So, Gaganyaan will be the first space flight program of ISRO. India will become the fourth nation in the world to launch a human space flight mission after USA, Russia and China in the same order. Okay, they have launched. US was the first one to launch, second was Russia, third was China. India will be the fourth one. Now, what is the major objective of this launch? To demonstrate indigenous capability of human space flight to low Earth orbit. Okay, and for this we will be using GSLV Mark III vehicle for its launch. For this purpose, the launch vehicle has been renamed as LVM, Launch Vehicle Mark III. Okay. Now, this payload, okay, suppose this is the rocket. If you see, this is the rocket. It will mainly have two major payloads that it will have. The first will be the crew module and second will be the service module. The crew module will have the non-negotiable most important things to make sure that the 3 astronauts that will be on flight will be safe and their basic minimum necessity to keep them alive will be fulfilled in this crew module. Okay. Now, second is a service module. In service module, all the necessary items, not the non-negotiable, all the necessary items to maintain and to make sure that this crew module work efficiently will be added in the service module. Okay. If you see, it is the spacecraft carrying human being. It is exactly the module that where the 3 astronauts will be there. Okay, it will house a crew interference, a human centric products, life support system, avionics, decelerating system, and it is also designed for re-entry to ensure safety of the crew members. Okay, this will be a single module that will detach from the whole launch vehicle, and this will come back to Earth. This will make the re-entry to Earth, okay, with all the astronauts. Now, this mission will this whole mission will mainly consist of five phases. If you see, okay, integrated drop test vehicle and PAT. So, these 3 are the testing phase, where we will mainly test in a very simulated condition, in a very restricted conditions. Okay. Then we will have unmanned flight. So, this flight will be there out there in atmosphere, but this will be partially regulated. Okay. The condition for this unmanned flight will be partially regulated in the atmosphere, and finally we will have the manned flight. Now, if you see till now, these 3 have been done. Okay, these 3 have been done. Some aspect of it, okay, some aspect of it like Vyomitra, the humanoid robot has already been made, but they have not launched it. So, this unmanned flight will have 2 modules. Okay, the first module is scheduled to go in March 2026. In the second one we will send this Vyomitra. Okay. So, that is where the whole news is coming from. Now, if you see this, so this mission will consist of two unmanned mission G1 and G2. Second uncrewed mission will carry the Vyomitra robot. The first and then we will have one more manned mission, that will orbital module of the crew mission will carry 3 Indian astronauts, including a woman in space for 7 days, and this will be at a low Earth orbit at an altitude of 300 to 400 kilometers. Okay. Now, if you see this part, this whole unmanned mission, this unmanned mission consists of a lot of technical prowess. Okay. So, there will be technical support and there will be training of the crew members or the astronauts. Okay. If you see, the training of the astronauts and this part is mainly done by Russia, and the support system is mainly done with the help of France. Okay. There is no hard and fast rule about this, but more or less this is what is being done. Russia and France are cooperating with India for Gaganyaan mission. 4 astronauts completed their generic training at Russia's Yuri Gagarin training center between February and March 2020-2021. France is training in India's flight physicians, assisting the development of microgravity applications and space operations. Apart from this, NASA is playing a major role. They are helping us big time to make sure this mission is a success. Okay. We have already seen this. Let us go on to this part, the testing phase, the 3 testing phase that we spoke about. What is it all about? So, integrating air drop test. Okay. So, whenever the vehicle will come back to India, it will need a decelerating system. Why? Because under the force of gravity, under G force, it will accelerate a lot. Therefore, we need a decelerating system. So, we will have 2 type of decelerating system. One is parachute based, that will capture the air, and one is pyro. Pyro is fire. Okay. So, this is exactly what majorly Elon Musk's SpaceX does. Okay. So, let us say this is the module, we will have the parachute above and there will be a nozzle from where we can actually decelerate using fire. Okay. So, this will be a parachute module and this will be the pyro module, and this has been tested, this is done, this is kept in place now. Now, coming to the test vehicle flight. The test vehicle is a single stage liquid rocket developed for the abort mission. If anything goes wrong, then we will need this mission. Coming to the third part, pact abort test. This test will involve dropping the crew module from the helicopter, will help us to understand the impact of various height and velocity. Okay. In the instance of launch failure. So, this is while incoming from low Earth orbit, and this is while the launch of the mission. Okay. Now, after this testing, we have unmanned mission. And that is being done now. So, apart from this, there are some tests that are needed in unmanned mission also. One is Vyomitra, I already spoke about it. Second is water survival test facility. Okay, ISRO along with Indian Navy carried out water survival test facility to initiate recovery trials of crew modules in February 2023. Okay, why do we need this? Because of this is the test vehicle flight. So, test vehicle flight will come and drop us in the most likely in Arabian Sea. Okay. So, it is scheduled to drop us in the Arabian Sea. The launch will happen from the eastern coast, okay, but they will come back to Western Sea in the Arabian Sea. Okay. After this unmanned vehicle is successful, we will have the manned mission. So, the first phase of unmanned mission is expected to happen by March 2026. The unmanned mission second is expected to happen somewhere at the end of 2026 or early 2027, and after this we will have the manned mission, and manned mission is expected to happen sometime towards the end of 2027 or early 2028. Okay. So, this is what it is. This topic is a favorite area of UPSC. 2 question has been asked from this exact news, okay, from Gaganyaan. Okay, 2 question has been asked in 10 years, and since this is the special module that is happening, it can come again. Okay. Coming to the next topic. There is shift in climate narrative as the Paris Pact comes under scrutiny. Why Paris Pact is under scrutiny? Before we analyze why Paris Pact is under scrutiny, let's understand what was Paris Pact all about. By the way, Paris Pact again has been a very recurring theme. At least 6 to 7 questions have come in last 10 years, and this year we are celebrating 10 years, a decade of Paris Pact. Okay. So, this again becomes very important for this year's prelims. So, Paris Pact was a agreement adopted on 12 December 2015 in Paris and entered in force on 4th November 2016 after meeting the dual threshold. What was the dual threshold? Of ratification by at least 55 parties contributing over 55% of global emission. This was the dual threshold that Paris Agreement needed to get into force. Okay, so it took them 1 year to get to make sure the signatories, 55 signatories and 55% of the global emission. Now, what was Paris climate? Why did we need Paris climate when we already had the Kyoto Protocol? Okay, if you see, so Kyoto Protocol was a top-down approach. Okay, so it replaced the Kyoto Protocol top-down model with a bottom-up system where countries set their own climate target called NDCs. So, bottom-up approach where nation state themselves tell you what will they do with the climate impact. Okay. So, therefore, we came up with NDCs. Initially, in Kyoto Protocol, there used to be a verdict that these has to be achieved and everyone was given task. So, that was difficult. Now, if you see the Paris climate, there are 4 major components, 4 major objectives of Paris climate aimed at balancing ambition with flexibility. Okay. Why ambition? Because the previous agreements like Kyoto Protocol was very ideal and very ambitious. It was not very practical and very oriented towards developed nations. Okay, they were made in such a way that they will benefit the developed nation more than the developing nations. Okay, but after 2008, Lehman Brothers crisis, the economic shift, the locus of economy moved from the developed nation to developing nation. Okay, therefore we started having such a conversation, and it was only in 2015 we could fructify a major agreement like Paris Agreement. Now, what does this include? There are 4 major aspects: mitigation, adaptation, finance and technology, transparency and global stock take. Now, mitigation, limit temperature. What do we mitigate? To limit temperature below 2 degrees or 1.5 degree and pursue 1.5 degree by reducing global greenhouse emission by 45% by 2030 in 5 years. Okay, so this was in 15 years. Adaptation, strengthen resilience, reduce vulnerabilities and support climate resilient development. Therefore, came up the concept of climate smart agriculture. Okay. Finance and technology, mobilize financial and technological resources especially for developing nation. Under this, around $100 billion were promised. Okay. So, there comes the article 6 of UNFC of this. Okay. And then transparency and global stock take, introduce a robust system of reporting and monitoring and raising ambition every 5 years, every 5 years. Okay. Now, we already spoke about NDCs in Paris climate. I want you guys to see what are NDCs that India have actually signed up for. Now, if you see, India initially signed up for certain NDCs, but later we realized that we could do more. Therefore, we updated our NDCs in 2022. I want you guys to see this in this manner, because many account and many study material will have this, okay, and some will have this. So, this will lead to unnecessary confusions. So, let me get this clear for once and all. Okay. Emission intensity reduction is 45% from 2005 levels. Okay. Initially, it was 33, 1/3. Share of non-fossil fuel in installed electricity capacity will be 50%. Okay. And carbon sink will be 2.5 to 3 billion tons of additional sink through afforestation. So, these remains the same, but these two have changed, Now, what is the progress that we have made? If you see the carbon sink aspect, it is not clear, and if you refer to status of forest report, okay, so it does not have any major impact. Okay. We still have around 24% tree cover going on. Okay. So, not much has been done in this regard, but with respect to share of fossil fuel in the installed capacity, we have reached 41%. Okay. And we have reached 24% of reduction in 2016 itself, and now we have almost reached around 30%. This is the estimate, and this is not a exact figure. Okay. But this is the exact figure. Now, apart from this, in Glasgow, our PM also spoke about Panchamrit. Now, a lot of study material says this Panchamrit is an extension of NDCs, which is in a sense true, but make sure that these two are different goals. Okay. Now, non-fossil fuel electricity installed capacity to reach 500 gigawatt. Okay. Is this included in NDC? No, not included, but a lot of you will say no, but non-fossil fuel electricity capacity has to reach 50%. No. So, 500 gigawatt does make sense. So, it is included indirectly, but you should know that off white is not white. Okay, both are different. So, make sure that you differentiate that this is not included in NDCs. What is included is at least 50% of the total installed electricity generation capacity to come from non-fossil fuel sources. This is included. Okay. Apart from this, reduction of 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent from cumulative projected emissions between now and 2030. Okay. So, again this is not included. Again someone will say this is related to afforestation, that this can be included. No, it is not included. At least 45% of reduction in emission intensity by intensity of GDP by 2030. This is included, this is directly included. Okay. Net zero status by, this will be 2070, sorry for this, this will be 2070. Okay. And this was never intended to be a part of NDC. Okay. Now, let us see what the if you go through the Paris climate agreement. Now, that was the 21st COP. Recently, we have concluded 30th COP that was held in Brazil, Belém, Brazil, and there are few major outcomes. Let's go through the key outcomes, then we will analyze what is being said in the today's article. Now, they talk about Belém package. Okay, it's a comprehensive set of 29 negotiated decisions adopted at COP 30, focused on moving from discussions to implementation. This is very important because we have been discussing climate change a lot. If you see from the assessment report 1, okay, if you see from the assessment report 1, we have been discussing climate change, and it has been more than 40 years we have been just discussing about it and not doing. So, this was the first time this has been agreed upon. Okay. Second is Global Mutirao Agreement. Global Mutirao Agreement, this prioritize cooperation and implementation rather than mandatory targets. So, this is an extension of what was accepted in Paris Climate Agreement. Okay. And the breakthrough is this is seen as a compromise between developing and developed nation. Initially, what was happening? They were having an ambitious target that was developing countries were having ambitious target, and developing countries developmental goals were being hampered. So, there was a tussle between developing nation and developed nation, but this seemed to have a way out. Okay. Now, what else? Global Implementation Tracker and Belém mission for 1.5 degree global climate. Okay. This was designed to monitor whether the national action and NDCs align with the pathway compatible with limiting the warming to 1.5. In the first slide only we saw that the way NDCs are going, we will reach around 2.7 degrees Celsius by end of the century. By 2021, we are likely to have a global average climate of 2.7 degrees Celsius. And if you see, the major impact will have on the tropical and subtropical region. Brazil, countries like Brazil, India, South Africa will be the worst affected countries, mainly due to the population that they have. Okay. Tropical Forest Forever Facility, TFFF, launched by Brazil. TFF is a payment for performance model that reward countries preserving tropical forest. Why tropical forest? Why Brazil is talking about tropical forest? Because of the Amazon rainforest. Okay. And then lastly, we have the Belgium 4X pledge. This pledge aims to quadruple the use of sustainable fuel by 2035 compared to 2024 level. Okay, with flexibility for national circumstances. The International Energy Agency will monitor this progress annually. So, they will submit a report. Now, what about the article? The article talks that the global consensus is weakening, and we are moving from collective ambitions to national pragmatism. Okay. Collective ambition like Kyoto Protocol that had top down approach, to national pragmatism that has NDCs, okay, in Paris Agreement. Now, why is a Paris Agreement is being under scrutiny? Okay, because it failed to meet global temperature goals, as we have seen. Unequal burden. Okay, the $100 billion that I spoke about was not delivered. The promised $100 climate finance was not delivered. Okay, the developing nations who were scheduled to have deep emission cut did not do it. Okay, and particularly post COVID and after Ukraine-Russia war, they have gone for energy security because of the uncertain global conditions. Okay, so this has also propelled this new trait of national pragmatism. Again, from there is a exit and dilution of major players like US have been very shaky on Paris agreement. During Donald Trump's first presidency, they left for Paris, and then when Joe Biden came, they again joined back, and then they have left again. Okay, so there is a seesaw going on. Okay, now shift from mutualism to unilateral pathways as discussed earlier. Okay, now what are countries doing? What are major countries doing? What is the issue that we are facing? Countries are pursuing national carbon market. This is one, this is two, and trade linked climate measures. National carbon market like US have subsidy driven climate policy. Okay, they have also passed a act, Inflation Reduction Act, where they have made sure that the carbon market of nations actually affect the global supply chain. Trade linked climate measures, EU Green Deal and CBAM. Climate action increasingly linked to industrial policy and strategic competitiveness. Mainly China. China has done this, aligned their industrial dominance. Climate action has been aligned with their industrial dominance. Okay, so they will have net zero emission by 2060. Okay, so Paris is no longer the sole anchor, okay, of climate governance. There are regional and national government that are taking over. Now, what are the implications for developing nations like India? If you see, we have policy and implementational concerns. Okay, pressure to peak emission early and then phase out coal faster without having access to finance and technology. Okay, trade and competitiveness risk measures like EU CBAM and apart from this, China's climate resilient industrial policy is a major de facto carbon tariff. Okay, penalize export from developing nations, climate becoming a trade barrier and not just environmental issue. Okay, so again this will be linked to trade war also. Equity debates resurfaces. How does equity debate resurfaces? India has a major role to play in this. Okay, strong emphasis on historical responsibility and developmental justice. Developmental injustice actually, not the justice. Okay, India's consistent stand: climate action must not compromise poverty eradication. Okay, poverty eradication has been a major issue in countries like India and South Asia in general. Okay, now what is the way forward? Recenter climate action on equity, finance and technology access, integrate climate goals with developmental priorities, strengthen South-South cooperation and formulate regional climate arrangements. Okay. Now, very interestingly, if you see, this news is done. Now, if you see this, trade linked climate measures, okay, EU's Green Deal and CBAM, and measures like EU CBAM is a de facto tariff. Okay, how? Why are we saying so? If you see, that brings us to the next news of the day. Okay, so what has happened between India and EU? A carbon gap and a FTA bridge has actually led to this. The article talks about EU CBAM and its implication for India-EU trade, especially in steel and aluminium export. Why steel and aluminium export? Because these are major polluting industries. Okay, it links CBAM with the ongoing India-EU trade agreement negotiations, suggesting FTA could act as a bridge. How FTA will act as a bridge? We will see now. Now, what is carbon gap? Now, if you see nothing, the critical difference between current global emission reduction effort and what actually was needed according to Paris Climate Agreement. Okay. Now, what is CBAM and its core features? CBAM is a carbon leakage, a tool to fill the loophole of carbon leakage. Okay, is an environmental tool designed to apply a carbon price to certain imported goods, not all. Okay, just like we have tariff in aluminum and steel. So, certain imported goods addressing carbon leakage where production moves to countries with weaker climate policy. Okay. But why are EU and its other nations doing so? Because it is a key element of EU's Fit for 55 plan. This can be an important question. What is Fit to 55? With whom Fit to 55 is related? To cut global greenhouse emissions by 55% by 2030 and achieve climate neutrality by 2050. Okay. So, till now we have seen EU will have climate neutrality by 2050, China by 2060 and India by 2070. Okay. Now, what are the core features of CBAM? Carbon pricing. Okay. As we have already seen, this is the nature of tariff. Okay. Targeted sector, not all, certain sector, the major polluting sector, just the way we have aluminum and steel now. There will be a certificate system. What is this certificate system all about? The price of CBAM certificate is linked to weekly average auction price of EU ETS allowances. Okay. So, this will be given by EU. This certificate will be given by EU to trade in EU. So, there is no third party or a independent certificate giving organizations. EU will give it. Okay. Deduction for existing carbon pricing. Importers can deduct the cost of any carbon pricing already paid in the country of origin. If you pay in India, you can get the deduction in Europe. Okay. To prevent double taxation. DTAA is a major issue in world trade. This is related to economy subject of your syllabus. Tell me about DTAA. What is DTAA? Write in the comment section what is DTAA. Okay. Now, reporting and verification. Importers must report embedded emission data using EU methodology. From 2026, this data must be verified by accredited third party. Okay. Pricing by EU, verification and reporting by a third party. Okay. And this will be in force from 2026. Today is 2nd of January 2026, and this news has come that they have actually implemented the tariff in aluminum and steel sector. Now, what will be the global impacts? CBAM encourages other countries to adopt carbon pricing and promote global industries to reduce emission to remain competitive in the EU market. This is very important, to remain competitive in the EU market. The tariff that have been implemented with respect to aluminum and steel, that is likely to impact India's competitiveness, particularly with major economies like China. Okay. So, what will be the impact on India? Trade in industry. India is a major exporter of steel and aluminum to EU, likely to increase export tax. Okay, likely to increase the export cost, reduce price competitiveness and affect MSME in metal value chain. Going forward, equity and climate justice. India's argument is CBAM ignores the common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities. Okay. This is a new concept that have been added to CBDR principle. Okay. Respective capabilities is very important. Developed countries historically responsible for emissions. Okay. So, the developing nations should also be given enough time to develop themselves and pull people out of poverty. This is seen as a green protectionist measure by India. Okay. climate becoming a non-tariff barrier, okay. Therefore, we are using FTA as a bridge. How can FTA be a bridge? They can create a mechanism for a mutual recognition of carbon standard. Why and how? This is where this principle of respective capabilities come in, okay. Provide technology transfer, climate finance and capacity building for Indian industries. This is where in all three aspects COP 30 will be helpful. Prevent CBAM from becoming a unilateral trade weapon, okay. Thus FTA can balance both climate ambition with trade fairness, okay. So the previous two news sets are linked to each other. If you read them in a combined set, that will give you a better understanding. Coming to the next news. Recently, movie in the name of Ikkis will be launched. Okay, Ikkis is 21. So recently a movie will be launched, Ikkis, about Second Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal and the Battle of Basantar. Now, what is Ikkis? Ikkis is the age of Second Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal. Okay, when he was killed in a battle, he was martyred in a battle. Okay, this is a small news that you should understand the importance of bravery and the Battle of Basantar. Okay, Shakargarh Bulge. Let's start with this. This happened in 1971 during the war in the Western Front. Okay, near Punjab. Now, about the heroism of Second Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal. Okay, he was a young tank officer. Okay, in the Indian Army. He was inducted recently, and during the Battle of Basantar, despite his tank being hit and burning, he refused to abandon it. He continued the fighting and destroyed multiple Pakistani Patton tanks. Okay, he was killed in action and later awarded Paramveer Chakra. Okay, he is remembered as one of the epitome of courage from 1971 war. In ethics, you can use the name and the incident in ethics paper as an example. Okay. Now, what is this Basantar Battle of Basantar? Before this, I want to give you a parallel. Okay, if you see, this is India, and this is Shakargarh Bulge, that is in Pakistan. Now, Pakistan wanted to deploy their troops here so that they can actually target NH1A, okay, and cut the supply line from Punjab to Jammu. Okay, and this was made very difficult by Arun Khetarpal and their troops. Now, this is very similar to what happened in Doklam. Okay, Doklam was very near to our Siliguri Chicken Neck corridor. Okay, and if someone sits in Doklam, they can actually have an eye on Chicken Neck corridor, and they can actually attack Chicken Neck corridor and cut off its supply line. So, something similar could have happened here if they could have a base in Shakargarh Bulge. They could sit here and have an eye on NH1A, National Highway NH1A. Okay, so this was the issue. Now, so this is where the Battle of Basantar of 1971 comes in. Took place in the Shakargarh Bulge, strategically critical area between Chenab and Ravi. Ravi, you can see Ravi formed the boundary between India and Pakistan, and somewhere here we will have Chenab. Pakistan aimed to capture the Pathankot, which would have threatened India's supply route from Punjab to Jammu. Now, Pathankot is very near somewhere here. Okay, So, that was their main agenda. The battle is described as one of the most important defensive offensive operations. Again, very important that you can use your internal security and ethics paper. Defensive offensive operation on the western front. Okay. In Indian military operations, if you see the Indian military operation, India crossed into Pakistani territory in December 1971. Engineers built the bridgehead across Basantar river. That's why Battle of Basantar. Under heavy fire, Pakistani forces launched repeated counter-attack with armors. Okay, India destroyed over 50 Pakistani tanks, suffer heavy casualties. Okay, but held their ground. The success prevented Pakistan from exploiting the Sakargarh bulge. This is a very important news because Sakargarh is in Pakistan. Okay, India could restrict Pakistan to use their own territory. So, this is a very big news. Okay. Now, in this same battle, there was a Poona Horse Regiment. Poona Horse Regiment was an armored regiment who played a decisive role. Okay. Second Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal belonged to this regiment. He was from Poona. He was from Poona Regiment, not from Poona, sorry. Their tank repelled Pakistani counterattack, and secured the bridgehead. Okay. Regiment actions ensured Indian forces could continue their advances. Okay. So, this is a news that you should know about the area. You should know about the Second Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal, and you should at least be knowing about the battle. Coming to last news of the day. Recently, PFRDA allows Indian Bank to set up a pension fund to manage NPS. Now, what is PFRDA, what is NPA, and why are being bank allowed? Now, PFRDA is a pension fund regulatory and development authority of India that allows bank to set up pension fund now under NPS. Okay. Until now, bank was mainly the point of sale as the service provider, but not as a pension fund manager. Okay. So, now they will be pension fund manager. Now, what is PFRDA? It is a statutory body that was formed in PFRDA Act of 2014. So, before this, how things were happening, we will see that. Okay. So, what is the objective? Objective is to promote old age income security by establishing and regulating pension funds. Okay, pension funds to protect interest of subscribers, instead of subscribers, not the whole India, not all citizens. This is just subscriber, not citizens. Okay, to schemes of pension fund and related matters. It comes under the Ministry of Finance. This is very important. This comes under Ministry of Finance. And they have fund managers. Okay. Now, there might be a confusion if they say that this is managed by SEBI. Since there are fund managers, you might get confused with this, but we very clear that they are under Ministry of Finance. Okay, it is headquartered in Delhi and have regional offices in various places. The authority consists of a chairman and 3 full-time member and 3 part-time member. This part-time member are mainly appointed by the central government, in which at least one should be a law member. Okay, law with at least one person from each discipline. Okay. Now, what is National Pension Scheme? National Pension Scheme is a retirement benefit scheme introduced by Government of India to facilitate regular income for all subscribers. Again, citizens, not citizens, it's subscribers. Now, let us see some basic facts about NPS. NPS was launched in 2004. Okay, but if you remember, PFRDA was made a statutory body in 2014. Okay, initially it was introduced for new government recruits except armed forces. Why new government recruit? Because it was in 2004 the government pension was put out of the government employees. So, they fixed NPS so that whoever contributes here will get something after retirement. With effect from 1st May 2009, NPS has been provided for all citizens, not so now initially it was mainly for the government recruits between 2004 to 2009, only for government recruit. After 2009 to till now, it is open, to all citizens, okay, but not all citizen will get this, only one who subscribe to this will get the NPS pension, okay. It is a voluntary scheme that is available for all citizens of India. People can invest any amount, at any time in NPS, okay. So whenever you invest in NPA, you will be given a PRAN number, permanent retirement account number. This is something similar to PAN number, okay, something similar, not a replacement, something similar to PAN number. It is based on a unique PRAN which is allotted to every subscriber, again subscriber, okay, not citizen, subscriber. NPS account or PRAN will remain the same irrespective of change of employment, city, state, okay. So you can migrate with this. By the way, there is a small issue, 1 2 3 4 5 6, this will be 7 8 9 and this will be 10, okay. Now PFRDA is the governing body of NPS, okay. So there is no defined benefit, that you will be getting at the time of exit, okay. Whatever accumulated wealth depends on the contribution made and the income generated from the investment of such wealth. Who will do this? They will be fund managers who will do this for your behalf. Under NPS, individual savings are pooled into a pension fund which is invested by PFRDA regulated professional fund managers into diversified portfolios comprising of government bonds, bill, cooperative debentures and shares, okay. Contribution made by individual subscriber are accumulated until retirement and corpus growth continues via market linked returns, okay, not government entities, okay. And subscriber also have the option to exit this plan before retirement or opt for superannuation. Now what has recently changed? So PFRDA has allowed bank to become pension fund manager, okay. This will also reduce barrier to entry, okay, aim to increase competition and choice in NPS. And why did they do so? Because this will increase competition, expand NPS coverage and improve financial inclusion and strengthen trust. This is an additional move towards the JAM Trinity, in the line of JAM Trinity, okay. So we already have many accounts through Jan Dhan and Aadhaar and mobile banking, so this will add on to it, okay. And why bank? Because they already have millions of customers, have a strong distribution network and are closely regulated and financially robust, okay. They can cross sell NPS with existing account holders. This makes NPS more accessible and mainstream, okay. That's it for the day. I think today was a relatively easy and very light newspaper. So I hope you guys enjoyed your new year, and this is the time when you get back to your study table, okay. Thank you. Have a nice day.